name is Annette Bulovic and I am the historian behind Discover the Delights of Peeling Back History. And this is my second video of being on location, and of course Akaroa was definitely part of our earliest European history. And here I am at the old French burial grounds behind Akaroa, and it's just a beautiful day here. Now most of us know the story behind the French story behind Akaroa, with the Comte de Paris arriving on the 18th of August 1840 with French and German settlers, and most of us sort of grew up with that story. So what I thought, I'll just add a bit of spice by actually coming at that story at two different angles from two ex-whalers that had their own role in that story, and it may be little ties to that you weren't aware of. So the first ex-whaler, he was a harpoonist. His name was, actually first off, so because this is a French story, I'm not going to pronounce the names. I will do no respect. So Chris will cover that for me, and if I do say or pronounce anything wrong during it, we do apologise. So the first person I'm going to speak about is
Francois Lelievre.
Right, and he actually arrived on a whaling ship called Le Nile, so it's actually the Nile, and he just fell in love with Akaroa, and he actually decided to come ashore, and he probably opened one of Canterbury's first blacksmith shop, and he spent a couple of years here. And another ship came in, the Charlotte, and the captain from that ship and the settler, they made the purchase of this land off the Maori, and believing that that was secure, they went back to France and returned 2 years later. And of course during those 2 years the British got word of what the French were planning, and when the Comte de Paris came up into the harbour here at Green Point was the Union Jack, and the British actually squashed any plans for the French actually sort of owning the land. But it sort of backfired because Akaroa is very French, and it's known for its French connections, and that history is very much intact, and it's absolutely wonderful. Now the blacksmith, around that time, he took the ownership of two weeping willows off a ship that no one knows the name of it. We just know it was around 1840. So he took off from this French ship two weeping willows, and they are the parent trees of all the weeping willows, well, not only probably in Christchurch but probably in Canterbury at least. So all those beautiful trees, and the two weeping willows are believed to have come from the grave of Napoleon from St. Helena's. A bit of that some people don't think that's right, and some historians think that's very much what happened, but a bit of a grey area, but a lovely connection as well. So these two trees, one was planted in German Bay, and it was written down in my sources as truly being dead and gone, and the other one was planted in the garden of the blacksmith. Me and Chris did go searching today for that weeping willow, but they don't live beyond 75 years, and that's actually the trees being well maintained. So we've sort of looked around and have come to the conclusion too that that other parent tree is probably long gone as well. But a really lovely connection with that French story with the weeping willows as well, something you may not have known about. The other settler that I want to talk to you about was also an ex-whaler, and he arrived in Akaroa probably the late 1830s. His name was Jimmy Robinson Clow, and he loved Akaroa and came ashore, actually fell in love too with a beautiful Maori woman here, and the two of them actually had a family together. And the role that Jimmy actually played here with the story about the French settlers was he is believed to have made the flagpole that Union Jack was hoisted up above to. So when the French came in, it was right there in their face that they had not gotten the land that they had hoped for. So it is believed that Jimmy made that flagpole. He actually went on to have quite he's a really forgotten settler, but his story is so important because in 1841, still living here in Akaroa, he actually met William Deans, and it was Jimmy who actually, after listening to what William Deans was looking for down here, because William was living up in Wellington, very unhappy with his lot up there, wasn't farming land up in Wellington, and it was too warm. When William told Jimmy what he was looking for, Jimmy knew exactly the right place, and that was Pururingamutu, which is Riccarton. So it was on that very first trip. I think the other guy that was with them was George Dupper, and what they did is Jimmy goes, yes, I know exactly what you're looking for, and from Akaroa they went round the water up into the Avon River, and apparently from close to the site of the hospital, the British hospital, that was where William Deans first saw Riccarton Bush, or Putorangamutu, from that distance. And at that stage, it was 55 acres. Today, Riccarton Bush is 13. So you can imagine what a site, beautiful big site that bush would have been. And William Deans climbed up on the shoulders of George and Jimmy and said, oh, this will do, I'll make this my home. That's what he's been quoted to actually say. So, and also Jimmy is also regarded to be the first European to have travelled along the Avon, up the Avon or down the Avon. It's a bit confusing. So he is believed to have done that. So Jimmy also is in our history books as in being one of the very first to work Riccarton. Samuel Manson, who built the Dean's cottage as well, I'm sure Jimmy helped him with that cottage, and he also helped erect the first stockyards at Putorangamutu, and was very good with his hands and a very, very good handyman. And he was such a good friend to the Deanses that when the Deanses acquired Homebush in 1851, Jimmy was the first manager out there until about 1853. He managed Homebush and was the very first manager out there as well. And with him he had his two sons, Abner and George, and Abner is very much remembered in those parts. At Homebush there's Abner's pool and Abner's head. So Abner was only 12 when he went to live at Homebush, but up on that there's a hill called Abner's Head, and it was where he would look out over Homebush, which was 33,000 acres. He would look for lost cattle. So that ends my Akaroa story. I hope you've enjoyed these two different characters that sort of are linked to that story that you just may not have been aware of. And if I have pronounced anything wrong, I do apologise in advance. I mean no disrespect. So anyway, I hope you've enjoyed yourself, and we'll see you next time on our next location. Cheers.